Welcome to another thrilling episode of Goy Meets World. I'm your host, David Jonathan Busuttil. You know what, guys? Come on out. We got 5 minutes, then we're going in. You don't even. Previously, I would say, if you have 5 minutes to get in your Bible to wherever, don't worry about it. Okay, I got the Bible. I'm going to share it. All right, you just find the link and join us. You got 5 minutes. Okay. 5 minutes. My favorite part was watching Yoav get ready with that stuff. He put them on one by one and was just waiting for a minute. It was great. Matt, we have not met before. You are making balloon animals? Is that what
I am live streaming while at work, so also not exactly the most like sonically conducive environment to playing, so you need to mute me, just mute me.
Okay. What
lurking for a while. What's that?
What is work that you're making balloon animals?
I mean that's pretty much it. I make balloon animals. And during the middle week, there's not a lot of like high demand. So I live in the Pacific Northwest. So I'm up in Seattle at one of their touristy attraction spots, Pike Place Market, Bucket.
Okay. Cassandra, I feel like you and I are not dressed properly. Like, look at these fabulous individuals that we're sharing the internet with.
Yeah, well, you're like in a sweater vest and a tie, so I think I'm the most plain and casual right now. Everybody else is really dressed.
I'm trying to figure out, Yoav, is this representative of what you believe this chapter of the Bible is about? Is that what's going on, or no?
Yeah, but unfortunately, it's Purim today, and one has to dress up regardlessly.
That's right. It is Purim. The casting of lots.
Yep.
Share Michael Sartori, the man with 1,000 pages, is joining us. That's great. I hear those seagulls. That's actually kind of nice. Michael Sartori may be joining us if ever he can get his internet to work. Okay, well, guys, Yoav, do you want to tell people about Purim for all them goys who are watching?
How can I? Maybe we should do a reading. After summer we can do a reading of the Scroll of Esther. It's a fun book.
It is a fun book. I am not prepared to talk about Esther.
It's about Jacob's motherland, the great empire of Persia.
That's right. That's right. And the king is the guy from the movie 300, which people don't realize.
No,
isn't it?
Not the same. The Greek name is Artaxerxes.
Yeah.
If young Godi will pop in, he might give me the right name. Okay. There were various Koreshes and various Dariuses, and I think the Darius is the one in. I think it's 400 BC. We're talking 400 BC.
Okay.
And there were several Artaxerxes, so I'm not sure which one, but it is about intrigue in the courtyard and the role of women in the intrigue in the courtyard.
And it's about chaos too. It's about how God is in control of chaos, because there's an element where there's like deep irony that the guy is saying this is the day that Mordecai is going to get killed becomes the day that he gets killed, right? Like things flip and switch and all that stuff.
Yes, there is this aspect of it, because it is also the holiday of the changing of the season of the spring, when you cannot be certain. We had a cold wave last week, and now we have a heat wave. It's the time of year when you cannot be certain about the weather, so it is the celebration of chaos. But it's also a celebration of the role of women in high politics.
Yeah.
And which matches the history. There is a tested history to the role of women in the Persian courtyard at the time.
Yeah. And
so I think it's some kind of version of things that did happen.
Okay. Okay. It's the Persian King from 300's like uncle. That's great. That's great. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to you eating a bowl of cereal and saying nothing.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Every time.
Cheers.
This time
So-
it's coffee. You know.
200.
L'chaim. Okay.
So did we already read it, or are
No.
we gonna read it?
We're getting to it now.
Gonna read it.
I was
Okay.
consulting with my heart as to whether or not we would talk about Purim today, and I didn't prepare, so we aren't going to. So we're going to go into the text that we normally go into, but oddly enough, this Absalom story has a little bit of someone showing up in costume, has a woman showing up in costume and tricking the king. So, got a little bit of that to it. Does anyone want to say anything else before we actually read the text?
Just don't expect me to be serious today.
How could I with what you're wearing, sir? I appreciate you. Oh no, I selected the wrong one. What did you over here? Look at that. Okay, we're going into the text now. Cassandra, would you be so good as to read for us?
Okay, yes. I will read. I also think you should make Andrew read, though. Okay. Now Yoab, the son of Zeruiah, knew that the king's heart went out to Absalom. And Yoab sent to Tekoa and brought from there a wise woman and said to her, "Pretend to be a mourner and put on mourning garments. Do not anoint yourself with oil, but behave like a woman who has been mourning many days for the dead. Go to the king and speak thus to him." So Yoab put the words in her mouth.
Look, Yoab, this is about you getting a woman to dress up in a costume, right? Pretend to look like you're crying. And this is, I don't know if maybe just because we're in a silly mood. Part of it as well with mourning is that you don't wash for like that period of time. So it's show up like a dirty, smelly, sad woman, right? Like that's fun. It's a good setup for things. Okay, so Yoav encouraging us in the costumes. Continue, Cassandra.
When the woman of Tekoa came to the king, she fell on her face to the ground and paid homage and said, "Save me, O king." And the king said to her, "What is your trouble?" She answered, "Alas, I am a widow. My husband is dead, and your servant had 2 sons, and they quarreled with one another in the field. There was no one to separate them, and one struck the other and killed him. And now the whole clan has risen against your servant, and they say, 'Give up the man who struck his brother, that we may put him to death for the life of his brother whom he killed.' And so they would destroy the heir also. Thus they would quench my coal that is left, and leave to my husband neither name nor remnant on the face of the earth."
Okay, great little bit. Does anyone have any comments before we move on? Any comments?
Is this tricking David? Because this is the second time this is happening to him.
Yeah. We're in a bit where David is constantly being fooled and tricked and dealt with. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's in a section where all that's happening. That's a good thing to note. Not the first time.
Also, brother against brother has just made me think of Cain and Abel.
Cain and Abel, good catch. In the Septuagint of Genesis, in the Cain and Abel story, and else in other early texts that we have, it becomes an idea that, and you'll see this as a note, that Cain invites Abel to the field. So if you're reading in the Septuagint, Jan God reading his his Septuagint version of the story, the taking out to the field would have that connotation as well. That's really good, Cassandra. The other part of it that is reminiscent of Cain and Abel is the idea that if the brother is punished, it would actually be worse, right? Because God puts the mark on Cain instead of killing him. So that's all really good stuff to kind of to catch. Does that feel right, Cassandra? That's kind of what's jumping out?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, on this first read. Again, I wonder how committed she is to the story then, because if she's supposed to appear unwashed.
Yeah.
Did he just grab her and make her go out the same day, or did she prepare herself in a way in order to actually seem like a true mourner?
Right. Frizz up that hair. Throw some dirt on your head. Maybe rip a pocket. Yeah. Man, and this is like the elements where there's a silliness to it. I grew up around old school Italians. And if you go to an old school Italian funeral, there was this woman, this very large Italian woman that was just like crying and actually boo-hoo-hooed and like made that noise. Like it was like almost silly, the level of mourning. And a friend of mine at the funeral, he was old school Italian himself, said, "I'm surprised no one threw themselves on the casket." Right? Like, and he said that completely seriously. And I'm just like, the level of silliness that actually can be a part of this story and yeah, like it's normally biblical stories are just assumed to be melodramatic, but I like bringing out the silliness in it. Don Keeners, that's their job. That's right. Yeah. Does anyone have any other comments they want to bring in? That's really good, Cassandra. Yoav, do you want to tell anyone else any other details about Jewish mourning that might be helpful for people to understand? Anything that you think is silly?
No, it's not silly. You don't throw yourself on the casket because there isn't any.
Right.
Basically, there is in the cemetery. There's a place to give some speeches.
Mm-hmm.
So some people who knew the deceased will say some nice things about him, and he will be wrapped in a white shroud, like the famous Turin shroud. And basically, you go to the grave and you dump it in the ground and you cover it by dirt. Some customary prayers to be said. About a man needs to remember that he is coming from nothing and going from nothing to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But he's going to give an account to the Almighty, nevertheless.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Let's go on with the story.
Okay, excellent. Anyone have anything else to share? Andrew, how's your coffee? Good. Good. Okay, Cassandra, continue for us, please.
Then the king said to the woman, "Go to your house and I will give orders concerning you." And the woman of Tekoa said to the king, "On me be the guilt, my lord the king, and on my father's house. Let the king and his throne be guiltless." The king says, "If anyone says anything to you, bring him to me, and he shall never touch you again." Then she said, "Please let the king invoke the Lord your God, that the avenger of blood kill no more, and my son be not destroyed." He said, As the Lord lives, not one hair of your son shall fall to the ground.
Okay, this, as you know the story more, is like at one point I laughed when I read this line. Not one hair of your son shall fall to the ground. Why is that a joke?
I had never noticed that before. That's amazing.
That's right. The promise that Absalom won't be harmed is that none of his hairs are going to fall to the ground. Matt, share with everyone how Absalom dies.
He dies when he is running away from the battle that he's losing. His long, luscious locks get caught in the trees, and he is hanging
That's
with
right.
his hair suspended in the air, and he's slain by Joab. Is it just Joab? Was it?
Yeah,
He almost killed by 3 guys at the same time? Or is that somebody
they
else?
all show up, but only Joab throws the spear. That's good. Yeah, the long, luscious locks, they get stuck in the tree, and so he's killed without falling. You only get it if you read the story in its entirety, whereas if you divide it into chapters, you may not notice that. Yeah. So, look, Joab, we're getting jokes, and the jokes are coming from Joab in the story. Okay? Is that enough foolishness for you? Love this. We talked about this before. The king is being tricked into invoking Hashem. He's going to use the divine name, so he's going to be bound to this idea that he won't be able to do anything. But in the previous chapter, one of the things that we covered is that it seems like David wants to be good, like wants to forgive Absalom. He kind of wants to, is this possible underlying thing that David doesn't want to punish Absalom for the things that he's done.
Yeah, but to your own God, yes, it is in the Hebrew. The Hebrew certainly states that not one of your hairs will fall down.
Yeah. And it's gonna be beautiful when we get there. I don't know if we're gonna get there today. You know, we might be able to cover 5 chapters without Yosef being here, because thank you for that laugh, Yoav. I caught it. I love Yosef, but we get through less text, we get through less text when Yosef is here because he notices more things, which is good, not bad. Love it. I love it. Happy holidays, my friend. He's drinking along.
Did you want to read his comment?
No, I just like him saying lots of heretic stuff happening here, and I am distracted. Wonderful. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Cassandra.
Oh, well, because please let the king invoke the Lord your God. Oh, I was just wondering how much of this is him being actually completely deceived, because is this like legally binding, everything that's happening? Is it just because he does say as the Lord lives that makes it like completely legal or whatever?
Yeah, that's a very good point. And the Avenger of Blood, which is invoked here, is not applicable for someone who intentionally kills someone. Right? So the Avenger of Blood was if I was doing something and the hammer slipped, right? Like, let's just say I'm on a construction yard. I'm working with an axe. The axe slips, smacks the dude in the face, and he dies, right? There would be someone from the family that would like bring justice, the Avenger of Blood. And the way I could avoid that would be fleeing to one of the cities of refuge. But that the cities of refuge were not for, and the Avenger of Blood was not the, like, it sounds like it's a city of refuge accidental thing that he's getting him to swear, and that is not the situation. Not only, like, the way that this story is set up is that Amnon waited years to do it. He is patient. He makes sure that Amnon expects nothing before he kills him. Right? Like, it's not the situation that's being laid. So again, you kind of have to say, okay, it's not accidental, but David wants to forgive. So even to what extent is he even being tricked? like all these questions kind of in the air. Lots of fun. Okay, let's. Does anyone have anything else they want to share before we continue on?
Just the fact that, like, whether or not David is. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, I hear you great.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The fact that, like, my assumption is that this scene is when David is, like, in court, and so this is him, like, publicly
Matt, you're
judging the
muted.
case. So, yeah. Any better?
No, I hear you. I don't know why Andrew said that.
Okay. But yeah, no, my assumption is that this is David receiving her case at court, so he's whether or not he's being tricked or not. Like, I assume this is a very public, whatever he declares is formal and noticed and recognized. So even if the oath is not active, it is like he's bound by what he says here. Is my assumption. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. Okay, sorry. Andrew says he can't hear Matt. I could hear him. I'm assuming everyone else could. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, revenge is best served cold. Matt, I was ever so slightly distracted because, well, I was looking for the thumbnail of the picture. This is a painting of Absalom, and it just looks like you. It's just, I've never met you before. And when I was trying to find the picture, like, okay, what is Absalom? Look, they gave him, your beard looks a bit red. And they gave him the full red hair because of David being ruddy. So I think that's beautiful. Sorry, can you restate what you were saying before?
Like, the context of the scene as I read it seems to be the woman is coming, like, David is receiving her in court and judging her case. So it's not like a private meeting. Like, whatever David's saying is something that is witnessed. He is, in essence, like, giving legal declarations in his public position. So whether or not he's like giving it up to the Lord or not, he's still bound by what he says here.
Right. That's a good point. A public declaration. It's not just what happened with Nathan, where he's tricked. Or comes to the realization it's private, right? Whereas this is very public. That's a very good point. Anyone else?
Oh, one other question here.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Amnon, the one that was slain, was he David's firstborn? Would he be seen as, in effect, like the heir apparent and effectively the Lord's anointed? Because that kind of plays into all of the First Samuel, David's insistence on not laying a hand on the Lord's anointed, and his son has done what he refused to do many, many times when he was struggling for his own kingship.
Well, yes, and Yoav is very interested in all this stuff because you can say, well, he does this because of his sister, or does he do it because that's one step closer to the throne for him? Right? What is the reason why he brings about justice? Is it merely to bring about justice? Right? Is that what the purpose is? Because it does appear to me that, and I might be wrong, someone correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Amnon is the eldest because there is such a theme of the eldest being like a failure. The failure of the first, I sometimes call it. Yeah, those are all very, very good themes to be catching.
It's the same. I mean, Absalom at least needs to be seen as doing justice if he wants to be king, and we can read it maybe in this chapter. He presents himself as the future king and the future judge. So doing justice and being the king is the same. You cannot separate them.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a very good point because one person, Yoav, is noticing, Yosef is noticing this. In verse 6, there was none to separate them, or in the Hebrew more accurately, to save them. So back up here, when she's using the story, no one stops it. And you'll remember David does not get involved in the situation after what happens with Tamar. He doesn't do anything. David's failure to intervene when he should have. Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you, Joseph. Very, very good things to catch. Which is, again, a theme in 1st and 2nd Samuel, because in 1st Samuel, you have Eli, who knows that his children are doing terrible things and does not intervene. He just kind of tells them to stop it, even though they were doing some pretty heinous things. Is Absalom good and just? I would say no. Because this is the other aspect of his death, which is about to occur, is that cursed is anyone who is hung on a tree. And that is part of the purpose of how he dies. Specifically, in ancient Israel, it is kings and princes or rebels who would be hung on trees as a way of showing that judgment, not just from humans, but from God, has fallen on them. So, okay, we're gonna continue. We will get there eventually.
Isn't it the person who hangs them gets cursed? Is under the curse?
No, it's the one who is hung.
But they're dead.
Yeah, but it's important.
I mean, the hanging is it's like reputation assassination. Like nobody wants to associate with somebody who's so gruesome, who's not honored in their death.
Yeah. So in Joshua, or is it Numbers? There are kings that are dethroned and then they're hung on trees. That's part of what happens. The bodies are hung on like display. Yanni, I don't know what you mean about Jesus being hung on 2 trees. Technically, he's okay. Joseph is saying that you are right, that the curse is on. First off, I'm not upset because Andrew is correct. I wish I could have a conversation with Joseph specifically about it, because it appears that it's pagan evil kings who are put on display through being hung on trees. Isn't that them bearing the curse?
Isn't the punishment for blasphemy death or whatever?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry to be a bit out of the story, but I must ask Joseph, the fast of Esther, what hour does it end? Are we within the fast of Esther or not? Because I thought it ends with sundown.
It's not sundown for him yet.
It's way not sundown. It is 4 hours, 5 hours more, 5.5 hours.
So you're not here with me. Okay.
No, I'm in the U.S.
Okay, that explains it. Okay.
I had to come on with the hanging thing.
Yeah.
So Deuteronomy says in Deuteronomy 21 that it is the one who hangs the person, like the act of hanging someone is what is the one who's cursed. Like the person who carries out the act of hanging someone is cursed, because it is an affront to God. Like, that is reread in Galatians to mean the person who is hung on the tree is cursed, not the person who's hanging on the tree. So it's a Christological, well, I don't know if we call it Christological, but it's a New Testament reading or lens to read it the other way, but it's not the Hebrew. And it is the violation, right? Exactly. Corpse violations are bad. They are made in the image of God. And you can't leave, and specifically, you can't leave someone, right? You can't leave someone on hanging until if have the sun set on them. Now that's going to be violated in this book, right? We're going to have that shortly with Rizpah, and David's going to violate that. But and perhaps in some ways there's a connection between his violation of this commandment and also what happens to Absalom. We can talk about that. But I just want to
you would say that that's part of why when they do hang, because I said that they hang kings when they hang those kings, it says they take them down before sundown.
Yes, that's the commandment. You can't leave them up because that would be a disrespect. And in fact, in Jewish law, it's not even that. The way we read it rabbinically is that literally as soon as gravity takes a hold of the body, you take it down. Like you don't even leave it up for more than like 30 seconds, basically. Like it's literally just a symbolic, very quick thing. Like you do this, and you can't kill them that way either. You can't kill someone by hanging. They're killed separately, and then the body is hung. In the very few cases where it's required under halacha to hang a body. It's a super rare punishment that's like has a very long discussion about why it even exists, but this is a separate thing from what's happening in the book of in Samuel and Kings, where people are doing it kind of extrajudicially. They're acting like the kings of the other nations in doing so, or the people of the other nations in doing so, and not per like the strict like law per Deuteronomy. And they might get in trouble for that. I mean, there's an entire discussion with David and what he does with Saul's kids, right?
So sorry, on that topic, then the emphasis on that they were hung is on the fact that they're taken down, not that they were hung up in the first place. Like,
which emphasis in which book, which verse? Who are you talking about?
I'm sorry, it's not on my mind right now. It's in one of the. I think it's in Joshua, where Joshua defeats a king and then they hang him up when they defeat him.
It might be the kings Ze'ev and Orev, the ones Raven and Wolf, the kings of Moab, maybe.
Yeah.
But even there, right? So like there, that's very clearly Deuteronomistic and trying to say I'm following the book. I'm following the letter very exactly here. That I did the thing I was supposed to do, and they're taken down. Now, there's a question there because that's not actually like Deuteronomy is talking about a case of applying capital punishment to Jews for a very specific violation of Jewish law, which is not necessarily the same as enemy combatants, and like we can talk about with that. And in fact, I just cover that part in the Talmud. There's a very long explanation for this type of stuff, or discussion. But yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I'm going to not stay on because I don't want to take 5 chapters of your time. But
I love when you take 5 chapters of my time. I am delighted and honored by you taking 5 chapters of my time.
I just couldn't not say something about the New Testament reading that you were doing of Deuteronomy there, because I don't.
Yeah, look, you're Yon God's hero. I don't know if that's good or bad. That might actually be a bad.
I am his Queen Esther.
Very good. And then he's gone. That's beautiful. Okay. You know what? Maybe we'll fight about that more in the future. But for now, let's continue on, shall we? What am I supposed to make Andrew read? Andrew, are you literate? You can read
occasionally.
Okay. Would you be willing to read for us?
All right, sure. Then the woman said, "Please let your servant speak a word to my lord the king." He said, "Speak." And the woman said, "Why then have you planned such a thing against the people of God? For in giving this decision, the king convicts himself, inasmuch as the king does not bring his banished one home again. We must all die. We are like water spilled on the ground, which cannot be gathered up again. But God will not take away life, and he devises means so that the banished one will not remain an outcast. Now I have come to say this to my lord the king, because the people have made me afraid, and your servant thought, I will speak to the king. It may be that the king will perform the request of his servant. For the king will hear and deliver his servant from the hand of the man who would destroy me and my son together from the heritage of God. And your servant thought, the word of my lord the king will set me at rest, for my lord the king is like the angel of God to discern good and evil. The Lord your God be with you.
Very interesting. The angel of God to discern good and evil. What do I want to say about that? Within this section, I believe that if this was modernized, this would make rounds on remember Wrecked, when like YouTube videos of just people getting owned or wrecked. There would be a pair of glasses that would be animated to go on this woman's eyes, and a small blunt that would be like, it would be like one of those. Cassandra, you watch those Thug Life videos. You know what I'm talking about, right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I mean, I do.
Yeah. David is getting trapped. He's getting, because there's a part of it being public, along with him publicly swearing, is also him getting publicly owned. He's getting embarrassed publicly as well.
Question. She's saying you should be like an angel of God and be a judge. Where else do we have angel of God serving as judges?
Are you talking about Sodom and Gomorrah? Is that what you're thinking of?
I think the more... no, I didn't think of that. It might be similar. I don't see them as judges. There was sort of investigating team more than the judges.
Mm-hmm.
What could be,
the accuser.
Could be. Yeah, but it's just clear to me that she's assigning to angels of God the role of judge, which is as if it is well understood and always happens, and it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, and the discerning good and evil, that's an interesting turn of phrase as well. This is great. We stumbled upon a chapter that is referenced in Esther. Truly, this is from the Lord, my friends. For the king will hear and deliver his servant from the hand of the man who would destroy me and my son together from the heritage of God. Okay. It's good stuff. Okay. Andrew, I'm going to get you to read again.
Then the king answered the woman, "Do not hide from me anything I ask you." And the woman said, "Let my lord the king speak." The king said, "Is the hand of Joab with you in all this?" The woman answered and said, "As surely as you live, my lord the king, one cannot turn to the right hand or to the left from anything that my lord the king has said. It was your servant Joab who commanded me. It was he who put all these words in the mouth of your servant. In order to change the course of things, your servant Joab did this. But my Lord has wisdom like the wisdom of the angel of God to know all the things that are on the earth."
Did you see? I didn't mute you. Did you? Yeah, you muted yourself after you made that first noise. So for those who don't know, that's great. Doing a little, he censored his own name. It's great. That's great. The using of the noisemakers so that you can't hear the name. What a lovely time I'm having. I love, though, within this, that when he's tricked, David immediately knows who did it. That's part of what the beauty is. I pulled the prank on a friend through the mail, and it disappointed me greatly that he made a post where he said, "I know it's either David Busuttil or these other two guys who did this to me. Which one of you did this?" And I was very upset that there were two other people that may have done it, because I thought it was so obvious that it was me. So it's kind of, there's something beautiful about Joab actually attracting the attention to himself. It's very interesting. Is this Joab? I'm sure you've thought of your namesake a bunch. Do you think that Joab was good to do this? Was this a good action?
I don't know. It's complicated politics, and I don't know where he was aiming. I think he wanted the best for the kingdom, and he thought that Absalom was obviously a great future king. I mean, if David was more decisive, if David from the start had his sight on Solomon, Yoav would follow him, but David wasn't. So Yoav needed to make the decisions for him.
And Yoav will be killed by Solomon too. That's an interesting, like that he's Yoav is hitching his wagon to Absalom. That might be one of the reasons why he gets killed.
Yeah, but I don't think that it mattered much. I mean, he was very old, an old man by then, and he was a warrior. I mean, if he thought that his political move was for the good of the kingdom, he would have risked himself without any thinking twice.
Yeah. I really like the way that you described Yoav, because he wants what he thinks is best for the king and the kingdom. And he will push what God wants if he thinks that it's better for the kingdom, if someone gets killed, if certain things happen. He has his own ideas about stuff.
Yeah, I was thinking because when Nathan does it, he is there as a prophet. So this is like directly from God. Yoav, it's a little different, but yet that line about not a hair of your son shall fall to the ground. It seems like there's something about that is, I don't know, maybe not endorsed, but it's like pieces of that exchange are upheld, even though it's not as direct a route as like God calling up a prophet to talk to David.
Yeah. Could judgment come without David being wrong? Is there a way that punishment will happen? Sorry, go ahead, Yoav.
It's interesting that David recognized Yoav and immediately, because last time it was Nathan that was doing it. So why would he not suspect Nathan? And I think the difference that Nathan came by himself, and by the fact that Yoav was manipulating somebody to do his bidding, that is how you recognize the hand of Yoav.
Yeah, I think you're right. That is even part of Foxy, calm down. That is part of, I made reference to like the wrecked videos and everything, owned and everything, is that the videos are people being made public spectacles. The public spectacle is part of it.
Yeah. I was gonna ask too, where is Tekoa? Because I don't know if I remember seeing that in any other passages.
Tekoa is south of Jerusalem.
Okay.
This is good. Yosef is saying David went from being really decisive before Bathsheba to doubting himself deeply after.
Yeah, my angle of it, that before that he was obeying orders. God was telling him, kill this or kill that or don't kill this. He was just following order, and that's a very easy position. I mean, I wish I had God telling me what to do with my life, so I don't have to think so hard. And I think he was sure that if he's going to kill Uriah, and if it's not the right thing, I think he was sure that God would have informed him about it beforehand. And suddenly he's all by himself, and he has to make the decision that he's never made before.
I think there's something too about kind of duty and leadership, because David also seems extremely decisive, and he knows right from wrong when he's on the run from, Saul, before he's actually king, before he's actually taken the reins of power.
Yeah.
And I was thinking maybe part of that too is that once the decisions are yours, there's a weight on you about what to do with that. And now when you make a decision, it really matters.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's not just that your decisions don't matter, but I mean, like when he was on the run, he was making life and death decisions constantly. But here, the consequences are much more deeply distributed. Like you got to be a lot more careful because it's going to reverberate far farther than your little band of pirates here.
Yeah. Yeah, the things you do because it's personal versus the larger for the whole city, for justice in general. Yeah, those are different, like kind of different systems almost. Okay, Cassandra, the reins have been returned to you.
Then the king said to Joab, "Behold, now I grant this. Go bring back the young man Absalom." And Joab fell on his face to the ground and paid homage and blessed the king. And Joab said, "Today your servant knows that I have found favor in your sight, my lord the king, and that the king has granted the request of his servant." So Joab arose and went to Geshur and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. And the king said, "Let him dwell apart in his own house. He is not to come into my presence." So Absalom lived apart in his own house and did not come into the king's presence.
This is so interesting because he is brought in, but David still can't bring him into court. That would be too much. And one of the things I find particularly interesting is that Joab does it himself. It's not just like he wants to do this, because one of the things that's going to be upset, Joab is going to be upset in the next chapter that Absalom won't speak to him. He's got to do some things to attract attention, or did I mix that up? Either way, there's a personal relationship between the two of them. And so one's going to be upset when the other won't return their phone calls, if you'll modernize it with me.
The Hebrew says, let him turn around and go to his home, as if Absalom was already seeking to go to meet the king, and the king said, "No, you turn around and go to your home."
Okay. Yeah. Don't we all? Okay, let's continue on. Did I already? I'm sorry, guys. I'm getting some texts right now. All right. Okay, we did all this. Continue, Cassandra.
Now in all Israel there was no one so much to be praised for his handsome appearance as Absalom. From the sole of his foot to the crown of his head there was no blemish in him. And when he cut the hair of his head, for at the end of every year he used to cut it, when it was heavy on him, he cut it. He weighed the hair of his head 200 shekels by the king's weight. There were born to Absalom 3 sons and 1 daughter whose name was Tamar. She was a beautiful woman.
Oh, okay. I love all these descriptions. What is necessary about all this stuff? That he's a handsome dude. I just love that he's handsome. That to me connects him to what David looked like, right? David is a good-looking dude. It connects with Joseph somehow too. Joseph is very good-looking. I like that Tamar, like that he honors his sister by naming who was, all these terrible things happened to Tamar, names his daughter, and that she is also beautiful. It's really nice. I like this section, even though don't particularly like this guy. I also like that he only cuts his hair once a year. Ooh. Look at it. This is why, Yosef, you are always welcome to extend the length of a stream. There was no blemish connects to Amnon wanting to cause a blemish in Tamar. It's great. he may be. That's one of the things I wondered if he could have been a Nazirite, because people don't realize part of a Nazirite vow is actually a shaving of the head. When you take on a Nazirite vow, you first shave. So the idea that he is getting his hair cut once a year may be a reference to this. It's okay. This is Jan God's translation. And like Absalom, there was no man in all Israel so glorious in the footsteps of his feet. Okay, Yosef is. Am I going to do this? Is the blemish language at all connected to, like, Jan God was saying that in some interpretations he's a good guy. He's not actually bad. What do you think? I ask as though he's here and will respond immediately. Yeah, there is certainly a kind of sickness in a person who sees something beautiful and wants to destroy it. Yes. Okay, wonderful. So this is part of the perspective then.
Yeah, well, not way. I don't think it tells us his height, but I was saying it's kind of similar to how they talked about
Saul
at the beginning. Yeah, like he kind of looks kingly.
Yeah. Got a real kingly look to him.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's interesting he weighs his hair. 200 shekels.
Everyone's just curious, what does the hair weigh? So bizarre. I have no idea. I am really bad with any conception of weight. Like if you asked me pick up something that I think is a pound, I couldn't do it. I'm bad with conceptions of weight. The sheep shearing is connected with Judah and Tamar, so he's getting sheared once a year. That's beautiful, which is what they would do with sheep. Is this a reasonable? I don't know, Yoav, if you know how much a shekel weighs. Is this a reasonable amount for hair to weigh in a year?
Well, I don't know, but it's a coin. It's a coin of pure silver. It cannot be too big. So it's like 300 dimes.
Yeah. The shekel is very tiny, isn't it?
It should be if it's made of pure silver.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I looked it up online. According to this online converter, shekel biblical Hebrew, it is about 5 pounds, which seems like a lot because I haven't cut my hair for years, and I don't think all of it weighs 5 pounds, let alone the growth in a year. But I don't know if maybe this is a part of like how he's like so healthy, like so much vitality in him or something that he can grow 5 pounds of hair.
Yeah, that's great. It always seemed like too much for me. I was like, what? Because I've done that. I've grown my hair for a full year straight. And I grew my beard too without cutting anything, which was gross. Because the longest I did for my beard was 6 months without doing anything. And the hair on my Adam's apple, I could put in my mouth by the end of that year. Like I could put it in like that. It was terrible. See, Dawn's units of measurements, I understand. That's a whole chicken. See, I can picture a whole chicken.
Yeah, that's indeed a lot of hair.
Yeah.
Young God has a concern that whether we are being educative enough or not. First, I don't know. As usual, I don't know what young God means, but I have warned you. This is not going to be an educating serious discussion today.
I said so. I think you're educating me. It's not the people. He's saying, "Are we educating David?" Like everyone here is teaching me. Yeah, we're just having. That's good.
I don't know. I feel like I've never taken you off more seriously than today. But
which one?
You.
Yeah. See, he's being open with his silliness. He's being open with the fact that he's the devil's advocate, right? When he shares his wonderful heresy with us. It's always so delightful when there is a conspiracy theory. I don't know what the glasses indicate. Like, the horns are obviously devil horns, but what are the glasses?
It's whatever I found in my costumes box that I open every year in Purim. I take whatever is in the box.
I should have. I know I have. My wife has like ridiculous things. I should have had a feather boa. I think that would have been anyway. Okay. Does anyone have anything else they want to add about the text?
Yeah, about the question whether Absalom is good or bad. Up to this point, is perfectly good. I mean, he made some tough decisions, but I cannot call them as a bad decision necessarily. Mm-hmm. He's going to turn sour because he's going to turn impatient. David is not making a decision about who is going to succeed him. The younger princes are getting older every year. At one point, he feels he needs to make a move. And this relationship between him and David turning sour, making him insecure. I mean, he's not secure about David's decision in the end. So he makes a dash for it. And this is, I mean, everybody's good in this world until they turn bad.
This is phenomenal, guys. We said we weren't going to talk about Purim, right? But here we have Young God has been shamed, which is a miracle as far as I'm concerned. We picked a passage which just so happened to have a reference to the book of Esther, like that Esther quotes. There's all kinds of silliness that's occurring, and for the first time ever, we have someone just doing balloon animals. How did such a thing happen, my friends? This is truly this is from the Lord. Okay, if this is not for Purim, I don't know what is. This is absolutely wonderful.
I gotta say, just on my end, I had no idea it was Purim or that this fit into that. So this was not intentional on my part. I promise you.
And you have been wearing a crown this entire time, looking like that painting of the dude of Absalom, who is the guy who's trying to take the crown. This is wonderful, my friends. This is a miracle in action.
Yeah, not to upset Yosef too much, but can I say that symbolism happens?
Yeah, symbolism happens. It's great. It's a great day for us. What else did I want to say? No, I think that's all I wanted to say about that. And the character of Absalom, the idea that maybe he's going to shift too, where maybe he's a guy who just takes things too far, because he's set up to become a punishment on David. So he's like a rebel sent from God. That's the way you take it, reading the stories in a row, that this thing that's about to happen to him is judgment to David. The punishment comes on David through Absalom, but then Absalom goes too far. It's like it's the problem that we always have with revolutions, right? You have like a story where there'll be like a small country in Africa, a man of the people rises up, defeats the warlord, and then he's a rebel. He becomes a warlord himself. He doesn't become good, right? Like, it's very interesting.
Okay, I'm going to say something very profound.
And that's a great introduction. You live up to the hype. Go ahead.
There is an argument between Jacob and Chezi about the state of Israel. They all agree that the Messiah will come and the temple is going to be built. And Chezi said, okay, let us build it. And Jacob says, wait until it's time, not knowing even when time is going to be. And this is exactly Absalom's dilemma. He's going to be the king, but when? Maybe too late. Why not do something to be the king if he's going to be the king anyway?
Yeah. That's very interesting, Yoav, because there's also this idea that David has patience, right? David has the opportunity to kill Saul and doesn't. He's patient to be put in the position. And there's even, you could say that Absalom dishonoring the king, where David doesn't dishonor the king, like refuses to do certain things, is the condemnation of him. Michael Sartori, the man, I'm going to start calling you the man of 1,000 pages, okay? That's how you will be referred to. It'll be one of your nicknames. The man with a beard like Absalom, the man of 1,000 pages, Michael Sartori. Do you have any thoughts that you'd like to
shorter. It's shorter now. I cut it.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
I mean, it's still a beard, but well, I don't know. I mean, I've been listening the whole time, but I'm not. What's the current mood? The current thing we're trying to figure out here.
You know what? Don't worry about it. Let's just continue reading, and then you can share your opinion on that. Are you driving, or would you be able to read for us?
No, I'm parked. I can read.
Okay, go ahead.
Where are we at? 28 there? Okay.
Yeah, right at the top.
So Absalom lived 2 full years in Jerusalem without coming into the king's presence. Then Absalom sent for Joab to send him to the king, but Joab would not come to him. And he sent a second time, but Joab would not come. Then he said to his servants, "See, Joab's field is next to mine, and he has barley there. Go and set it on fire." So Absalom's servants set the field on fire. Then Joab arose and went to Absalom at his house and said to him, "Why have your servants set my field on fire?" Absalom answered Joab, "Behold, I sent word to you, come here, that I may send you to the king, to ask, why have I come from Geshur? It would be better for me to be there still. Now, therefore, let me go into the presence of the king, and if there is guilt in me, let him put me to death."
Oh, this is wonderful. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, interruption. Important interruption. This is exactly the story of Purim. Exactly. Because Queen Esther needed to see the king on an urgent matter. And if you go to the king without being summoned, there is a death penalty on that.
Yeah.
And what Queen Esther did, she didn't try to find somebody who will ask the king to ask her or to ask twice or whatever. She just risked her life and came to the king. So what Absalom, if Absalom wanted to follow the example of Queen Esther, he shouldn't have gone to Yoav to do the diplomatic work for him. He should just have come. And I'm sure David would have broken down and hugged him.
Yeah, that's interesting. Don, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know which friend on Facebook. I don't know what this comment was a reference to. Yeah, it's very interesting. Michael, I think you read it right as well, because there's, again, this idea, it's almost like a prank. He won't pick up the phone. What do? Go over, light his field on fire. Then he'll call me back. Then we'll actually be able to have a conversation. It's great. It's how do you get his attention? Yeah, and this is the story that I thought was in the next chapter. It was the story about the prank. Okay. Oh, yes. This is very interesting too, because look at how Absalom understands himself. Let me go in the presence of the king, and if there is guilt in me, let him put me to death. So Absalom is unapologetic about what he did. He killed his brother. He planned it for quite a long while. He did it publicly, and he's saying, I didn't do anything wrong. Tell me what I did wrong. But not every. Yeah. Might be a prank, but not everything's funny. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's more than I mean, Yoav didn't want to speak to Absalom. Absalom go and light the field on fire. And that gets Yoav's attention. Why? As I said earlier, Absalom already has a small army. Absalom is signaling it's going to get violent unless we settle this matter. And then Yoav suddenly gets very worried.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't seen Absalom's growing army as a problem until that point.
Yeah. Very interesting. Anyone else have any comments before we finish off the chapter?
I think there's something about, so, I mean, my reading of kind of the whole thing from the previous chapter to this one is that, I think Absalom basically, because of David's failure to do anything about Amnon and all that, it's like he doesn't, he maintains the official roles or whatever, but he doesn't seem, I don't think he wants a familial connection to his father anymore. So like, and and that's even the thing. It's like, why won't you just go? He doesn't want to see his father unless if it's like a part of this kind of mechanistic plan. Probably because he doesn't want, like, because it's not, he's gotten this like, okay, well, you're forgiven or whatever, but it's in like a very like a justifiable way, or in a sense it's not, and I think that he's probably not wanting the like the path that he's committed to be changed by like he's not interested, basically he's not interested in repairing the father-son relationship with David. He just cares about like the lines of succession and what's gonna happen with the kingdom.
Matt, that's a great way of saying it. The prodigal son, this story is not. Yeah. And as soon as he gets like within the next section, Absalom is beginning a rebellion. He begins.
Comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Comment. Then Joab went to the king and told him. Told him what? He told him that things are getting serious, that violence is going to start very soon, and he has to. David now has to make the decision: is it going to quell a rebellion involving his son and his army, or sue for peace? And David said, well, I'm going to appoint Absalom as my heir anyway, so I'm suing for peace.
Well, and a reminder, one of the things that Yosef turned us on to in previous weeks was that Absalom's maternal side was royal as well. So he's been staying with the in-laws. He's staying with a rival kingdom when he's away. So yeah, how much peace are you supposed to make? Is that good? Is he just letting in I kind of phrase this the tip of the spear, because he's making peace with Absalom and bringing him back. But in making peace with Absalom, you're also letting in the thing that's going to attack you. That's what he's letting in, which is part of why I have mixed feelings about Absalom within this. Yeah, deliberately contrasting with the story of Samson. I think there's something to that too. Okay. Cassandra, finish us off, would you?
From 31?
Where did we stop? I think we just have one verse left.
Oh, is it just the last one? Okay.
Yeah, but you know what? Read from 31. Read from 31. Let's hear from there.
Then Joab arose and went to Absalom at his house and said to him, "Why have your servants set my field on fire?" Absalom answered Joab, "Behold, I sent word to you. Come here that I may send you to the king to ask, why have I come from Geshur? It would be better for me to be there still. Now therefore let me go into the presence of the king, and if there is guilt in me, let him put me to death." Then Joab went to the king and told him, and he summoned Absalom. So he came to the king and bowed himself on his face to the ground before the king, and the king kissed Absalom.
Yeah. Oh, look, they made peace. That's so nice. Nothing bad will happen out of this.
There was absolutely no choice because David's kingdom was overextended. If internal fighting starts in Jerusalem, then all the Ammonites and Moabites and whatever are going to rise up, and everything is going to collapse very, very, very fast.
Mm-hmm.
There was no other choice at that moment.
Right. And then the image as well as totally not a Judas kissing, these are chronologically speaking. Yeah. David's heart was already going out to the man Absalom. He does have lots of love for Absalom. You'll see that in the way David's reaction when Absalom dies. So to some extent, this is what David wants, but it requires this shady, crafty figure of Joab getting involved in order for this to happen. It's a very, very interesting kind of situation. Sometimes you have to stay with your in-laws. It's very true. Very true, Yanni. Ooh. Okay. Shots are being fired at me right now. David is a professional liar and performer. Busuttil, let's not forget the role of the thespian. Actually, look, Yanni, you should have remembered that the Greek word for actor is hypocrite. Hypocrite. Or was this the kiss of death? Was there hope of reconciliation until this moment?
Yeah, I think. Well, I don't know. I think they're probably. I feel like this is what's motivating Absalom, just in the way his whole thing is set up. Because he's the son of a. His mom is the son of a king or whatever. So she knows. It's like she's known from her whole life. Like, your job is going to be raising princes. This is the family business from her half the thing. And David just kind of lucked into this situation, or whatever, and so I think that, David's not the conventionally wise king, or he doesn't act in the conventional way that a king should. And I think that Absalom really reacts against that incompetency, I guess you could say. Like, for sure, by not doing anything about Amnon, he's like, my dad's a joke. He doesn't know any. Like, grandpa knows way more about how to be a king than dad does, and mom is like, telling me how to do it and all this stuff. Because everything he does later on, it's all he is the most competent at this stuff. Sitting at the gates and getting the attention of the people, and then the whole thing with David's harem. He does all of the correct moves that a smart person in his position does. And basically, I think it's just he which is probably even to say he probably grew up maybe being taught maybe by his mother even to think of his father as a rival, which oftentimes the sons of kings, there is a rivalry between fathers and sons, because you don't, there's a danger in the king getting too old and incompetent. It's not good for the kingdom. He's making a mess you're going to have to clean up. So you might as well, get the switch over with earlier. So I think that's really the thing that plays out in this dynamic, and it's the start of it is in this chapter, but that's the trajectory it goes on.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really, yeah, Michael. That's really well played on exactly the lines that Yoav is already was bringing out. This is everyone is talking about how confusing this is. Okay, because I met Yoav, you talking about it did a good job. Like that was a very good theme to bring out of it. And Michael, I think you extended upon that. The idea of like a king of this world, smart politics is oftentimes not the same as righteousness. Those are oftentimes very different things. I really appreciate this conversation.
Competency and goodness are two different things.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. Yoav is how do I say it? The character in the Bible is a son of a bitch that you want on your side. You don't want to be fighting him. That is, you respect him as a warrior, but is he a good man? I'm really glad we also had this conversation because I was kind of against Absalom. I think so I'm glad to have so many pro Absalom people giving me what's what.
An interesting thing that I've been thinking about is like how old do you think that King Solomon would be at this time? Is he like still like a baby, or do you think he's still like he's like old enough to be aware of what is happening?
That's a good question.
Because I was thinking about like how the parables are happening, and then that's kind of when King Solomon is giving judgment. He's like doing kind of something similar. And then I think he has a proverb where it says something about like the kiss of an enemy.
Oh yeah. Trusted are the wounds of a friend. Many are the kisses of an enemy. I think.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact
proverb.
That's just what I thought at that last line, at the last verse.
Yeah. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. Or sometimes, yeah. So,
yes, Young God is right. You should have listened to the song that I've posted.
It's true, very true.
Don't bother with the exact word of the song; they are indecipherable. Mm-hmm. But it's the spirit. It's the spirit of the end of 60s, beginning of 70s, where there was a young generation in Israel that was seeking peace, and they were saying, why shouldn't we have peace now? Because in the fairy tales end well. Why doesn't it end well for us now? So Absalom was a fairy tale prince, handsome and competent, and it didn't end well.
Yeah, but if you forgive him, he's going to burn the kingdom down.
No,
that's what forgiving him gets you.
It's not for me to forgive him, but okay, we'll discuss it next chapter. But
yeah.
Why was he making the move? That's not for today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to tie it to, and I don't know if it's there, Esau kisses Jacob when they're reunited. That's like part of them coming back together. I don't know exactly how we're supposed to take this reunification, how good it is. I love all the complications we brought out of the text that like could be the kiss of death, I think Don compared it to, I knew it was you, Fredo. I knew it was you, right? There's a lot of different options that are available. This was really, really good conversation, guys. Matt, I'm so glad you came out, never having met you before.
Thank you. It's been a good time.
I was worried that if I let you in, that let's just say that the balloons wouldn't. Never mind. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, no. I understand. I understand what I look like, and
it's that
Yeah.
I'm like, I've never seen this guy before. Is he serious? And like, does he seriously want to attend Bible study? And then I just see a long. I was just like, what is going on? Do I let this man on?
I clicked in when I did, hoping that in like the 3-minute like bumper, I could be like, say hi and explain myself. I'm like, nope, it's just me in there. But what do you do? I had to get ready for work.
Do you follow Jacob's channel? I haven't. I don't know if I've seen you around.
A little bit. I've been lurking here, watching you guys for the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
Slowly
You were on a
breaking the fourth
Friday.
wall.
You were on one of those Friday estuaries, right?
Yeah.
On Paul's channel. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I also emailed you about your tectonic school thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Have I not responded in a while? I don't know.
It seems like things have happened in your life that have altered your attention. My condolences.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I mean, I'm bad at email and all forms of communication. So.
Hey.
Well, this is great. Matt, you are absolutely invited to future weeks. This is great to have you out. What a great time. We even got Andrew to read and say things. He made biblical comments. He did not eat cereal. It's a pure miracle, guys. Okay, does anyone have any we'll go around
Yes.
Closing remarks.
I have homework for young God, or whoever may be concerned. Go and read Anabasis by Xenophon, preferably in the original Greek. It's very easy Greek. And compare it to the Scroll of Esther. The similarity are striking.
Wonderful. Thank you for that recommendation. Yeah, he's saying yes, sir. Good. Cassandra, you.
I don't know. Good chapter. I was trying to think about like how this plays into ideas. It's different though, because this is like a political drama. I mean, this is why there's so many soaps about like the royals and stuff like that, because these things are so complicated and twisting. But I guess I'm kind of looking through this, thinking about what this says about like reconciliation and forgiveness and stuff like that between families. And in something I was thinking is I think it's easier for parents to forgive their kids sometimes than for the kids to forgive their parents.
Ooh,
and that's
yeah.
without the complication of the politics and everything else that's happening around them.
Yeah. Man, we're living in a time where, my parents are toxic and I've cut them out. Like that's become such a big thing. Yeah, it's interesting. Huh. That's so interesting, because in the 90s there was so much conversation about parents disowning their children because of coming out as gay or whatever. But right now we're living in a time period where it's the children that are disowning their parents. That's the flip that has kind of happened within our time.
No, always. This is the story of the Zionist movement. Young people from Europe disowning their traditional parents in Europe and going to Israel to do something completely different.
Yeah. Man, fascinating. That's Cassandra, great points again. Great points. Anything else from you, Cassandra?
No, that's just like something I was thinking about kind of in the
Yeah.
background while I was discussing. Like,
It's there.
was there a possible better ending for this, or is this just what was going to happen? But then that line about like in the beginning where it talks about not a hair shall fall to the ground or something. And then I was thinking too also that the one who hangs the person in the tree is cursed, and then Absalom getting stuck by accident on his horse. On his high horse, maybe, if you want to.
Yeah. He's on his high horse. That's right. Yeah. This idea that there's some, again, with the idea of Purim, one of the important aspects is that God's name does not appear in the scroll of Purim. Okay. A lot of people think that's why it's not included in the Dead Sea Scrolls. But I actually think that's part of the brilliance of the scroll, because you have this aspect of lots being cast. And the idea is, I really believe this, God is there, but never a character on stage. He's making things happen so that you know that this was actually orchestrated by God all along. But you need to have that wisdom because the text doesn't even say God's name, not once. Right? So, and the Greek was uncomfortable with this. So if Yanni is reading the scroll, it actually says, God will bring deliverance for the Jews. Whereas in the actual scroll, in the Hebrew, it says, like, help will come from somewhere, right? It doesn't say God. It doesn't say Hashem. It just leaves it kind of open. So you get this feeling that the salvation which comes in this chaos, what are the odds that this would happen, is exactly what happens in this story too. Not a hair of his head will hit the ground. So what are the odds that that's how he dies?
So this is exactly going back to the story that we read today. David was used to having God around telling him God's opinion.
Do this, do
And
that.
now he has to stand on his own 2 feet. And we are in the same position. Until the scroll of Esther, we already had written down what God's opinion about everything was and what he was doing. And from that point on, we have to guess.
That's beautiful. That's the world we live in. Thank you, Yoav. Yeah, man. Okay. Good stuff. Matt. Skankenstein? I'm assuming that means that you were really into ska music at one point. Give me a 1 minute. So he'll.
Sorry, heard my name right as somebody's trying to talk to me. What's up?
No problem. I assume you're very much into ska music, and that's why it's Skankenstein?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, good. Either that or you're just embracing debauchery, which is, again, it's Purim, whatever.
Also, like the duality of playing up Frankenstein gives me. Sometimes I'm the professor. Sometimes I could be the monster. You know, I got options.
Yeah. Matt, do you have any other closing comments on this chapter?
Not specifically on this chapter, other than like this whole section, like just the amount of pages that are dedicated to the Absalom story makes me feel like I don't fully understand how significant it is. Because they just, again, like they devoted a whole lot more time to this than his like 15 wars with like the Ammonites and the Edomites. So this one matters and is meaningful in a way that I don't fully grasp. So I'm really excited to jump in a little bit deeper.
That's an important point, because as we go on through the book, it goes deeper and deeper into insignificant details until towards the end of the book it gets really boring. I mean, talking about a person throwing stone about another person, who cares? And for me, the point is, it really happened. I mean, somebody was there and was writing down what's happening. Because at some point, the man that was writing down was there, and he could write down the details. So I'm absolutely sure everything from this point on really happened.
It's interesting. Okay, any other comments, Skankenstein?
I think it's enough for today.
Okay, good. Michael Sartori, do you any other? You came in late, but you still shared much. We need to talk also, Michael, because I would like to. I'd like to read one of your chapters for you, for your book.
Okay.
You still got to tell me what chapter you want me to read.
Okay. Yeah, I do think, I mean, I kind of missed all the discussion in the beginning part, but man, I think it's really interesting how just that, well, I guess in one sense we could say we read this story and it's powerful, and that's also like what happened to David at the beginning of the chapter, just the power of these stories when you imagine like what was going on and the motives and the thoughts and all those things, and it's a good thing to do because you get so much out of it. So, but also you can be manipulated by sad stories. So,
Yeah. And Andrew, in honor of Purim, you, the most foolish person here, even Yoav trying to be foolish, is not as foolish as Andrew accidentally. You get the last word on the chapter. How about that?
So to summarize it, Absalom, he is out of the country. Yoav, this servant of King David, goes and plays a trick on him, gets King David to make a ruling that would bring Absalom back. Something about hair, and then I don't know what happens after that. Something about angels judging stuff, and yeah. There's my summary.
Great
Feel free
point.
to correct
Great.
it.
Yeah. Oh man. Thank you, Andrew. That I don't think I could jokingly summarize more poorly. Like if I tried, I don't know if I could. Glorious. Thanks, guys, for coming out. Happy holidays to all of our friends, especially our particular friend, Yoav over there. And I'm going to say Matt is accidentally celebrating as well. What a lovely time. Yes, we hate this channel, or officially I hate daylight savings time. You're welcome. Okay, we're leaving now. Goodbye. Goodbye, everyone.